Hi besties and welcome back to my trash channel. I've been so excited about this for so long. This is a Sakuatsu Collab series with these amazing textubers. Their links will be in the description. It includes 4 parts which will be posted one day apart from each other. But just enjoy this. The next part will be posted on 𝗦𝗃's channel. It has honestly been fun working with you guys and I'm glad it's finally here. Anyways, enjoy. Sakuatsu sighed, his back pressing against the door of the entrance to the gym, one arm crossing his chest while the other held his phone, his fingers mindlessly playing on it. It was still particularly dark out, but the sun was rising, and quickly. It would probably be bright before he'd even notice. It was in the middle of winter and he felt like his fingers were about to drop off due to the cold despite being completely wrapped up to fight the freezing temperatures. He'd arrived much too early. The coach had told him practice started at 8 a.m. And yet here he was. The time barely even 7 a.m. He was just excited to finally be playing volleyball again. He truly loved the sport and it always managed to make him feel happy. He played a little in college but was mostly distracted by his studies, so he couldn't exactly play as much as he had wished. But now he had graduated, and he was now able to join a team and begin playing again. Not only that, he had joined a first division team, the MSBY Blackjackals. It felt an honor to even be accepted in. He was excited to meet his teammates. He had seen most of them play on TV before, and they were truly amazing. Having good teammates could help him improve in points he didn't even know he could get to. But nothing could have prepared him for the shock he felt that early morning. Omi? Sakuatsu's head quickly snapped towards where the sound came from. He immediately knew who it was just by the nickname and the voice. Atsumu. 2 twin golden eyes stared up at him widely and Sakuatsu mirrored the same expression. What was he doing here? He hadn't seen him at any of the Jackals games before, so there's no way he could be on the team. He would have probably read something online about him joining if he did. But what other reason would he be here for? He was surprised Atsumu was even able to recognize him. The black hood of the coat and hoodie he was wearing was up and his head was ducked down. There's no way he would have been able to see his face. But maybe the blue mask he was wearing gave him away. What are you doing here? Atsumu practically took the words out of his mouth. Words now stumbling in his throat as he tried to figure out what to reply with. I could ask you the same. Well, I'm here for practice. How about you? The same. The both paused as they tried to collect their running thoughts. Sakuatsu tapping his foot on the ground over and over out of pure nervousness while the blonde took visible gulps. His cold fingers playing with one another below his waist. I didn't know you. We're on this team. I didn't know you were either. Well, I, just joined. So. Sakuatsu nodded and bit his lip. Yet it was disguised by his mask. His fingers copying that of what Atsumu's were doing as he nervously pushed his back off and off the wall. His eyes so wide he thought they were going to pop out of their sockets. Though from Atsumu's angle, most of his face was hidden by his hair. Nice. Well, I joined a couple months ago. Surprised you didn't know. It's kinda been all over social media recently. Especially if you were joining the team. Well, I don't really use social media a lot. That was a lie. Around 4 years ago he had unfollowed all the accounts that were related to Atsumu in any way. Seeing Atsumu in his feed just made him think about him more, when all he wanted to do was forget about him completely. It kinda worked. Kinda. Right. So what are you doing here so early for? I hope you know practice starts at 8. I could ask you the same. Oh, well, I like to come early, and get some extra practice in, you know. At least that was one thing that hadn't changed about Atsumu. He'd always be up bright and early before everyone else. Even at training camps, he'd be in the gym first, even at hours that would seem obscure, like 4 a.m. Sakuatsu had even caught him training at that time once before at a training camp whilst he was going to the bathroom. Yes, so, how do you expect to get in? Oh, well, The coach knows I like to come in early, so he gave me the spare key, he said, his hands moving to his pockets where he pulled out a key, dangling it out in front of him. Sakuatsu nodded once more, revoking the pressing of his back to the wall and standing up straight. Atsumu now having a clearer view of his face, his eyes going wide as he noticed the change in the man's height, though he decided not to comment on it. Well, not comment on it yet. Speaking of which, we should go inside. It's freezing out here. Okay. The blonde turned around to the door as he quickly inserted the key into the lock, swiftly turning it to its side and unlocking it. He then opened the door, walking in without closing it as if to invite Sakuatsu in, which he followed close behind too. He closed the door behind himself and watched as the blonde shuffled, taking his coat off. He placed it on a nearby chair as well as his backpack before he continued to walk further into the room. Sakuatsu was about to follow him until the blonde abruptly stopped in his tracks, his feet echoing a loud thud around the large room. Sakuatsu raised an eyebrow, the blonde showing no signs of explaining himself. He opened his mouth to say something, but was completely cut off before he even had the chance. You sure have gotten taller, haven't you? Sakuatsu looked up, his eyes staring directly into the back of Atsumu's head, the blonde's back still facing him. Something about his voice seemed a little off, maybe a little shakier than before, but he decided to gloss over it. I mean, I guess so. I've grown a lot since high school, so. He wasn't sure what to say after, but it seemed he didn't need to. The blonde now turning around to face him, Sakuatsu's eyes instantly going wide. Atsumu played with his hands but his eyes never drifted from Sakuatsu's for a single moment. His mouth wore a soft and yet clearly fabricated smile, despite the clear tugging of his mouth and his glossy, sad eyes. It's been a while, hasn't it? Omi. Monday, 5:25 a.m. Sakuatsu yawned, a hand pressing to the outside of his mask as the air escaped his mouth. Komori skipping joyfully next to him and babbling all sorts of nonsense that Sakuatsu was only half paying attention to. He sighed. The libero was acting too happy for his liking. What are you so happy for? Geez. Calm down. What do you mean? We got invited to the All Japan's youth camp. Of course I'm going to be excited. It's only a training camp. Sakuatsu sighed, his hands digging into his pocket as he tried to shield his fingers from the blistering cold. Though Komori didn't seem to care all that much about the weather, his head held high as he walked proudly. There's gonna be so many good players here. Why aren't you excited? I would much rather stay at home. Oh come on. I know you've gotta be at least somewhat excited. You could learn a lot. He sighed again, this time ducking his head downwards as if to conceive as much heat as he could. He didn't understand how Komori could just walk so carelessly, his coat not even on his body, but held in his hand. We're almost here anyways, so put a smile on your face. I'm wearing a mask. Who is going to notice? You know what I meant. Just don't look so grumpy. Act like you actually wanna be here. But I don't. Komori scoffed as they neared the place they suspected they would be staying at for the rest of the week. Sakuatsu was clearly unimpressed with the whole idea of even coming to the camp in the first place, but Komori guilted him into it, saying that he'd be all alone. Sakuatsu decided to just go. It would stop Komori from whining and it would probably be a good opportunity for him. This should be the place. Grab the door. They both stood in front of two glass doors, Komori bouncing on his toes out of excitement while Sakuatsu gave him weird looks, showing no intentions of even touching it. No. Right double quotation mark. Komori sighed, grabbing the door himself and holding it open for Sakuatsu to walk through. Komori following behind him after he then shut the door, making sure it clicked before he moved. Geez, why you gotta be so awkward, Kyo? I don't wanna be here. Be grateful even whatever. Now which door is the door to the gym? That one? Sakuatsu pointed over to one of the many doors connected to the room they were in, the lettering gym above it with a small volleyball icon next to it. Komori nodded, happily skipping towards the door and pushing it open, looking back at Sakuatsu, indicating for him to follow, which he did, reluctantly. I think you're right. Come on Kyo. There's people in here. Alright, chill. I'm coming. He applied to his words, walking through the door that Komori had pushed outwards, giving Sakuatsu just enough time to walk through it before he closed behind him. There seemed to already be a lot of people here, and Komori of course had to run up to them and begin blabbering to everyone about how excited he was. Though Sakuatsu did the opposite, walking over to a staircase where he saw a few people walking down and another walking up. He assumed they were the dorms. He couldn't think of anything else that they could be, and the people walking down the stairs seemed to be empty-handed. He let out a yawn, dragging his tired self as well as the 2 bags he had brought up the stairs, one on his back and the other held loosely in his left hand. They had been given a letter, the same letter that invited them to come to the camp in the first place. On that letter it told them what dorm number they were staying at if they chose to participate. Sakuatsu had already remembered the number, so he didn't have to bother getting the letter out from the bottom of his bag. Dorm number 16. He eventually arrived at his temporary home. He pulled the handle to let himself in, making sure to close it and lock it behind himself. He knew what teenagers his age were like, and quite frankly did not have the energy nor the patience to deal with anyone inviting themselves into his room, or just doing something dumb. The room wasn't too bad. It was simple and basic, but that's what Sakuatsu liked. You could tell where dirt is hiding in a simple room like this one, and that gave him some strange type of comfort. The bed sheets were white and there was a white rug on the floor. Both looked completely spotless, which made him happy since it showed someone had actually made the effort to ensure the rooms were clean, and they had done a really good job at it. Sakuatsu was expecting to have to clean up some dust or clean the floor to rid it of dirt, so he was pleasantly surprised. All he had to do was put his clothes into the closet, but he decided not to just yet. Instead he flopped face first onto the freshly made and cleaned bed, his body trying to gain as much energy as it could. He had gone to bed way too late for this, and Komori had excitedly woken him up extremely early. He could kill him for that. He groaned. It wasn't like he could stay there forever. He assumed they had practice in a short while. They were probably waiting for the last of the people to arrive. He sat up, rubbing his eyes as he shuffled to the end of the bed, eventually standing up while slouching to the door. He left his bags on the floor. He couldn't be bothered but put these things away quite yet. He'd put them away later. It gave him something to do when he was bored later in the day. He opened the door and began to make his way down the stairs and back into the main gym. Komori was still chatting with everyone who was around him. It was clear to Sakuatsu that Komori was indeed more excited than he had originally thought, and Komori being happy was always a positive. He didn't want to kill the mood by opening his mouth, nor did he want to socialize, so he decided to just stand behind Komori and play on his phone. It wasn't like he had anything better to do. He took moments to take note of the people around him. He had seen some of them before and others on TV, but there were some people that he didn't even recognize. Kyo. What? Hey. Komori startled him by quickly turning around, a wide and obnoxious smile smothering the libero's face. Sakuatsu raised an eyebrow, stuffing his phone into his pocket. Come here. I'm literally right behind you. Well, come stand next to me. You look lonely stood there by yourself. I assure you, I'm completely fine here. Just shut up and stand here. He pointed to the ground next to him. Sakuatsu scoffing but moving to the place Komori had wanted him to. You act like yeah brothers or something. The blonde stood across from Komori laughed, turning his head away from someone who he had been talking to and focusing it on the duo in front of him. Sakuatsu recognized him. It was hard not to since he was all over his social media. At Sumuma, he was very popular when it came to volleyball, so it wasn't exactly rare for him to be mentioned in something volleyball related on his feed. Plus they had met once before at a training camp in first year, though he doesn't exactly recall saying a single word to him. Komori wasn't there, so it became even harder for him to socialize. Though he wouldn't deny that Atsumu is an amazing setter, though he hadn't seen him play in a long time. Well, we're cousins, but we see each other every day, so we're basically brothers. We're not. What? You don't consider me your brother? I don't. Because you're my cousin. You sure fight like brothers. Doesn't mean we are though. Yeah, whatever. So rude, Kyumi. What? You're literally. Just shut up. You're so mean to me. I could cry. Sakusa scoffed, glaring at Komori through the corner of his eye, which the libero showed no remorse to, his hands resting at his hips and a smile at his lips. But anyways, this is Sakusa, my cousin that I was talking about. You said you recognized him? Kinda. I recognized the Itachi jacket. It's hard not to with those colors. I recognized face cause I've watched some of games and that training camp from last year. But I don't think we talked much, if at all. We didn't. Atsumu laughed a little, shuffling his body around completely, trying to completely focus on the pair in front. Rather blunt, but I can get used to that. Don't worry, you won't have to. I'm probably never going to speak to you again. Kyumi. Komori turned to him, giving him a stern glare which Sakusa almost wanted to laugh to. It wasn't intimidating at all. If anything, it was more pathetic. What? You need to get to know more people. What are you going to do when I'm not there? Sakusa thought for a moment, a yawn interrupting his speech. I dunno. Probably stand there and do nothing. Komori sighed, rubbing his forehead with his one free hand before standing up completely straight. Whatever, well, I'm gonna go put my stuff in my room. I'll be back. Okay. Komori didn't say another word, quickly turning around and walking towards the staircase. He too brought 2 bags and must have gotten tired of carrying them. Sakusa must have remembered something. He too turned around to call for him. Can I come with you? No. Sakusa scoffed, turning back around looking to the floor, pulling his phone from his pocket and unlocking it as he needed something to do. He had almost completely forgotten that Sumu was there in the first place. That was until he opened his mouth again, taking a subconscious step closer to Sakusa. Why are you so uptight? Way to start a conversation. Just asking. Why are you so annoying? You just met me. You can't make assumptions of me already. Isn't that what you just did? Whatever, but still. Why are you so uptight? If I'm so uptight, why are you still talking to me? Who else would I talk to? There is literally 30 people behind you. Look. Just babysitting you while your mother is away. Never refer to Komori being my mother ever again. So I can still talk to you, as long as I don't do that. Sakusa looked up into Atsumu's eyes, a blank expression on his face while Atsumu laughed to himself. He must have thought he was the funniest man alive, which he definitely was not. Die. Oh come on. It was a joke. Your joke wasn't funny. My jokes are always funny. Not sure who told you that. I did. I can tell. So rude, Kyumi-san. You. Never call me that again. Plus we're not on first name basis. We could change that. No. Right, double quotation mark. Ag. Who doesn't want to get to know the one and only Atsumu? Me. You're an anomaly. Atsumu huffed, crossing his arms as he stared at Sakusa with a pout. But that only made Sakusa want to punch him in the face even more. At least that's what he told himself. Go bother whoever you were talking to before. You noticed I was talking to someone? You must be a stalker. Or a fan. Do ya want my autograph? Absolutely not. Sakusa zoned his attention back to his phone, trying to ignore the continuous blabbering of the annoying blonde next to him, which worked for a short while. That was until the blonde took a couple more steps closer to him, until Atsumu was practically leaning over his shoulder to look at his phone. Ever heard of personal space? Back up. What's so interesting on your phone that you have to ignore me for it? Everything. I could be watching paint dry right now. But you're not. You're on Insta. Gimme your Insta. Stop leaning over my shoulder first. Goddamn creep. You can't just look at my phone like that, he said, turning around to push the blonde away from his shoulder. Atsumu's eyes widening for a moment before he caught his balance, walking so that he was standing in front of Sakusa once again. Kyumi giving him some kid glare. It's not like you were hiding it. I have nothing to hide, but that doesn't mean you can look over my shoulder. It makes you look weird as fuck. I mean, if that's the price to pay, I don't care all too much. Now gimme your Insta. No. The last thing I want is some random kid spamming me at 3 in the morning. I'm older than you. Why do you know that? I know everything. We literally met 2 minutes ago. What is your problem? I'd say my search history knows you very well. What? Atsumu laughed, his hand reaching up to the back of his head to rub it, while Sakusa continued to send him death glares. Chill. It's nothing weird. You're the number one ace or whatever. Had to see what you're all about. You've seen me play before. Doesn't mean I can't study an opponent. I don't search about you. Your Insta feed says otherwise. What? There was a pic of me on it. You must follow me. I have a lot of followers, so I'll need you to tell me your user to find you. Atsumu rooted through his pockets, trying to find his phone, letting out a sigh of disappointment as his face fell into a pout after a couple seconds of searching. Must be in my backpack. I left it in my room. Oh well. You can always give me it later. There won't be a later. We'll see about that. Sakusa scoffed, placing his phone back into his pocket. He surprised himself that he was able to withhold a conversation with a stranger for such a long time, even if they were just squabbling. Are you always this weird when you meet new people? No. Only Kyumi-san. Oh my god. Stop calling me that. Why not? Fine. Kyo? No. Komori calls me that. Just call me Sakusa. But that's boring. How about Kusa? No. Saku. Omi. Omi is a cute nickname. The complete opposite of you. It's practically perfect. I hate it. That's the point. Sakusa sighed, his head beginning to ache at the amount of nonsense falling out the blonde's mouth. The thought of the word Omi coming out of it only making it hurt even more. He could tell he was going to be a complete nuisance for the rest of his time spent at the camp. You're fucking annoying. I'm glad. Sakusa groaned, opening his mouth to spout another insult, though he was cut off mid-sentence. A familiar libero running their way, a hand waving above his head and a stupidly bright smile plastered on his face. Kyo. Hey. Komori stopped just beside his cousin, both Sakusa and Atsumu watching as his hands rested on his knees, his breath heavy as he began trying to regain his spare breath. What? Did you run all the way here? Had to make sure you weren't dying over here, or making anyone else die with your bad attitude. What? Chill. I can stand you. Is that meant to be a compliment? Sakusa sighed, receiving no reply as the libero stood up straight once again, his hands on his hips as he have a sympathetic smile towards Atsumu. He wasn't a bother, was he? He was awful, Komori. I feel like crying now, to be honest. What? Kyumi, how could you? He exclaimed, though he chuckled, Sakusa showing him a displeased expression back as Atsumu continued to pretend to be hurt. What? It was this asshole who wouldn't leave me alone. Your words scar me, Omi. I'm hurt. So hurt. And here I was thinking the nickname couldn't get any worse. Atsumu chuckled through a mischievous grin that he and Komori both shared. Sakusa groaned once again, feeling a beating ache in the back of his head that he rubbed with his hand. Also, you're shit at acting. What? Both of you. Monday, 5:55 p.m. Omi. Sakusa's eyes made contact with the annoying boy now jogging towards him. He letting out a noticeable loud groan to let Atsumu know that he wanted him to fuck off. But he didn't seem to take the hint. Or he just chose to ignore it. What? These are partner stretches, you know. Lem stretch with ya. No. Coach says so. I don't recall him saying that. Now fuck off. I'm busy. You scar me, Kyumi. Sakusa was laid on his back, his arms pulling his leg to his chest as he stretched his muscles out after a long day of practice which he definitely needed. Atsumu stood above him, looking down into his eyes with an annoying pout on his lips, kicking Sakusa's arm lightly with the tip of his foot in a way to edge him to stand up. Get up. We gotta do some arm stretches. I'm clearly stretching my legs out. Go partner up with someone else or whatever. But that will leave you all alone. And we can't have that. Sakusa released his grip on his left leg. He then pulled the right one up until it was pressing his chest, looking back at Atsumu to begin speaking. That's exactly what I want. Go somewhere else. Then I'll be all alone. I have no friends here either, you know. Sakusa scoffed, using one of his arms to push Atsumu's kicking foot off of him. You seem to be quite social. I'm sure it won't be hard for you to make friends with someone else. Well, too bad. I chose you. And well, Komori-san of course. But he's at the toilet right now. Then I'll wait for him to come back and do partner stretches with him. Omiai. Sakusa sighed, letting go of his right leg and pulling himself up into a sitting position, then pushing the tips of his toes together and leaning forwards as far as he could. We met this morning, Atsumu. Quit acting like we're best friends. We could be best friends. I'd rather not. Ugh. Whatever. Just copy the stretches I do. Can't you see I'm already doing stretches? If anyone's gonna copy anyone, copy me, Picklqous. Don't tell me what to do. Then do what you want. Not my problem. Atsumu groaned and pouted but gave up on it after receiving no reaction from Sakusa, sighing before reluctantly sitting down on the floor next to Sakusa, mimicking the same stretch he was doing. I don't know how your teammates can put up with you. They don't. And I could say the same for you. Sakusa hummed to himself as he stretched his legs out flat, then reaching his hands out to touch the tips of his toes. He let out a low grunt as he did. Atsumu copied his actions, as he was told to earlier. What do ya mean they don't? Sakusa sighed, pushing his head down and as close to his knees as possible. I mean they don't. They usually try their best to ignore me, but it's not that easy. I don't blame them. You act like you gotta stick up your ass. No one told you to come bother me. Giving you a chance, Omi. Sure there's more to you than being a prick. I mean Komori-san sticks around you, so you can't be that bad. Atsumu received silence as a reply. Sakusa standing up to begin stretching his arms and Atsumu copied him. I guess I don't even know about that. Tuesday, 6:20 a.m. Kyo. Nice of you to join us. Komori called out for Sakusa from across the room, the spiker slowly slumping towards him. His head hung low as he rubbed his tired eyes, he eventually placing one of his hands at the edge of one of the seats, pulling it out just enough for him to be able to sit down. He then rested his tired head to the wood of the table. Komori laughing at him. I hope you know you were to be up 20 minutes ago. Shut up. It's too early. Morning. Sakusa raised his head from the table slightly, just so that he was able to see where the sound of the voice came from, instantly dropping it back down to the table at the first sight of the setter next to him. Why is this idiot here? You only just noticed him? He's been here the whole time. Well, you'd usually hear him before you see him, plus my eyes were closed. What? Yeah, whatever. Now eat up. Be thankful I got your breakfast for you. Whatever. He raised his head once more, this time until he almost sat straight up, a clear frown on his face as he picked up the fork from the tray of food in front of him that Komori must have gotten for him. He lazily began to shove small bites of it into his mouth, ignoring the obvious stares from the blonde beside him. Where's my thanks? Sakusa shrugged, continuing to eat his food while staring at the ceiling daydreaming. He was clearly half asleep. Is he always this grumpy when he wakes up? What do you mean when he wakes up? He's always this grumpy. It's rare to see him even smile. You mean he can smile? I know. I was surprised when I found out too. Yeah, crazy. You must have gotten the wrong guy. Komori chuckled, a hand slightly held above his opened mouth. I must have. Anyways. Kyo. Have you showered yet? Sakuatsu raised an eyebrow, looking down at his cousin with an expression that clearly said what? The libero laughing before repeating himself. I asked if you've showered yet. Sakuatsu shook his head, looking back down to his meal before mindlessly beginning to slot it into his mouth again. Didn't think so. Let's all go shower once KineMaster is done eating. No, I can shower by myself. Thanks. Well, I need a shower too. You can't hog it. Okay, then go shower now. I need a coffee. I feel dead. Well, too bad. They don't seem to have any coffee. What? Tuesday, 6:36 p.m. What are you sat here all alone for? Atsumu said, walking towards Sakuatsu, a bottle of water in his hand and his t-shirt sweaty from all the practice. He had clearly not taken the shower yet, and that disturbed Sakuatsu. He had already washed up around 20 minutes ago, just after practice finished, though it seemed everyone else was too busy getting to know each other to even think about cleaning themselves up. To be alone? Well, why wouldn't you just go back to your dorm? Why are you asking so many questions? I'm just sat here. Chill out. Well, you look lonely. How about I keep you company? I'd rather you didn't. You were talking to everyone over there a few moments ago. Continue to do that, Sakuatsu said, pointing towards a somewhat large gathering around the center of the gym. He and Atsumu were in the corner of the room. Sakuatsu sat down on a bench where was previously playing on his phone, and Atsumu stood up in front of him. You look so lonely though, Omi. I can't just leave you here all alone. I assure you, Atsumu, I'm perfectly fine on my own. Now fuck off. Atsumu chuckled, taking a rough seat next to KineMaster, which Sakuatsu found to be too close, shuffling away from the sweaty blonde as much as he could. We all know you're here for a reason. It's obviously because you were craving my attention. What? Of course it wasn't. Don't lie to yourself, Omi. We both know you were only waiting here cause you knew I'd come over to you. I'm just waiting for Komori genius. Not everything's about you. Atsumu groaned, throwing his head back to look at the ceiling almost too dramatically, holding onto the edges of the bench for support to ensure he wouldn't fall off or tilt the bench over. What are you waiting for Komori for then? Not everything's your business either. Oh come on. Is it some big secret or something? No, not at all. I just don't understand why you think everything I say or do suddenly involves you. Because you're obsessed with me, Omi. Sakuatsu scoffed, looking towards Atsumu through the corner of his eye, the blonde laughing low to himself. I think it's the other way round, honestly. You won't leave me alone. It's not my fault. What? You have this kinda mysterious vibe about you, Omi. Of course I'm gonna be curious about you. Doesn't mean you have to bother me for the majority of the day. Oh come on. I don't bother you that much. Want me to list it? He turned his head fully to Atsumu this time, looking him directly in the eyes whilst holding out one hand, as if he was about to begin counting on his fingers. The setter scoffed, crossing his arms as he turned away. Maybe not. That's what I thought. Sakuatsu sighed, moving the hand that was held out in front of him to rest on his forehead. There's so many people here, and with that, so many people that would want to be your friend. Yet somehow, you chose to bother the one person who was no interest in getting to know you. Correct. I hate you so much. Atsumu laughed once more, fixing his posture so that he sat up straight, then turning his head towards KineMaster with a small but clearly legitimate smile across his lips. I can tell you're not that bad of a guy, you know. Take it as a compliment. If I really thought you were a complete dick, I would have stopped bothering you by now. I just think well, I guess. Misunderstood. Sakuatsu stayed silent for a moment, trying to process the words that just came from Atsumu's mouth. He repeated the words misunderstood over and over again in his mind, until he repeated them through his voice. Misunderstood. Wednesday, 3:56 a.m. Sakuatsu groaned as his tired eyes slowly opened, his body crumpling into a ball before he relaxed his muscles, edging his legs to the side of the bed where he dangled them until his feet reached the floor. He sighed, curse his body for waking him up in the middle of the night, and curse the builders of this place for not putting a bathroom in his dorm, which meant he had to walk all the way down the stairs into the communal bathroom instead. He raised an eyebrow as he neared the open entrance of the gym, thinking he misheard the sound of slapping clearly echoing around the large walls of the gym. But as he grew closer, he knew he wasn't imagining things. The sight of a volleyball being slapped against the wall coming into his view. He yawned. Who would be practicing at this hour? He walked further into the gym, enough so that we were able to make out the figure of a certain blonde who hadn't seemed to notice Kyumi yet. Probably since he had headphones in and couldn't hear him coming. Sakusa's eyes widened before he let out a yawn, redirecting his destination to Atsumu rather than the bathroom. He stopped walking just next to the blonde, Atsumu now seemingly noticing his presence beside him, his mouth opening in shock before he raised one hand to rub the back of his head. Omi, the fuck are you doing? Could you be even a smidge more polite? Geez Omi, answer the question. Fucked. What are you so angry for? Didn't think you could be more grumpy. It's early. I'm tired. You're talking too loud. I need to piss. Right. So, why did you even come down here in the first place? To use the bathroom. You do know there's one at the other end of the corridor, right? What? No. There is? Yes. I thought you of all people would have noticed it. This is the first I'm hearing of this. But anyways, don't turn this around. What are you doing here? I didn't even check the time, but my alarm didn't go off, so it must be early. Atsumu chuckled nervously, placing a foot on top of the volleyball by his feet to stop it from moving. Hey yeah, it's early. Then why the fuck are you here? Geez Omi, no need to be so angry. I'm just practicing. Since what time? What time did you start practicing, idiot? Oh, I think that's better unanswered. Sakusa sighed, dropping his head down, his tired posture worsening by the second. It was then when Atsumu got a chance to see Sakusa's face without a mask. He'd take it off when playing, of course, but he'd usually not have time to even think about it when focusing on the game. When practice was finished or when they were doing stretches, the mask would already be back on his face. So you've been here quite a while? I'd say so. Yeah. I couldn't sleep. Whatever. I don't really care. You sure sound interested for someone who doesn't care. Sakusa scoffed, beginning to turn away from the blonde and continue what he even came down here to do in the first place. Shut up. Just go to sleep. So you do care? No. Right, double quotation mark. Oh, where are you going? Atsumu called out when Sakusa was too far away, the spiker not stopping his tired walk. I need to piss. Wednesday, 7:25 p.m. Hey, Atsumu. Komori said, trotting over to the blonde who was sat by himself on a bench in the corner of the gym playing on his phone. He didn't have much else to do and didn't feel like going back to his dorm quite yet. Komori. Here. Are you busy? He said as he stopped just before the blonde. Atsumu looked up so that he was able to meet his eyes. Not really. Why do ya ask? Well, are you going to be busy? Komono. Great. Wanna come bother Kyo with me? Definitely. Komori chuckled, standing back to make way for Atsumu, who showed signs of getting off of the bench. You sure answered that quick. I have nothing to do, and annoying your cousin is always fun. That's true. He gets wound up way too easily. So we're gonna go now, or we're gonna go and bang on his door until he answers. I like this idea. They both chuckled, Atsumu standing up to follow Komori towards Sakusa's room. Atsumu had been rather antisocial the whole time he had been at the camp. He'd even shocked himself. Usually he'd have made friends with many different people, but this time it was only with Komori and Sakusa. It didn't bother him. In fact, he liked the freedom of being able to be alone. He's rarely been alone in his life before. He always had Osamu there, and although being alone almost scared him, it was also strangely pleasant, though he doesn't like feeling it for too long, which is why he bothered Sakusa so much. Kyo. Komori shouted as he banged on Sakusa's door, which he continued to do until he heard an almost inaudible grunt come from inside the room, which then was followed by footsteps. Kyo. He called again, though this time received only a curse back. Atsumu chuckling to himself. I fucking heard you, Komori. Let me unlock the door. His voice was muffled, though both Komori and Atsumu were still able to make out what he was saying. The door eventually unlocked, revealing a rather displeased looking Kyumi who death glared at his cousin until he noticed Atsumu stood just next to him. The fuck did you bring him for? Chill. He looked lonely, so I thought I'd bring him with me. Well, you can put him back where you found him. So Minomi-kun. But still. Too bad. I'm here now. I didn't want you bothering me, Komori. Never mind this idiot. Well, it's too late now. You can't just ditch us here at the doorstep. Sakusa scoffed as he reached for the door handle once again, though this time he made an effort to close it. But this time, and unfortunately fought Kyumi, the door was stopped by Komori's foot. Sakusa sighing as he took a step back from the door. Whatever. He left the door open while he walked over to the bed and flopped down on it, both Atsumu and Komori taking it as an invitation to be allowed in. Komori walked in last, so he was sure to close the door. Looks a little boring in here. I doubt your room looks any less boring. We weren't exactly meant to decorate. True. I was just looking for something different, okay. But I guess all of the rooms look exactly the same. You could always leave. And leave you unbothered for the rest of the day? Absolutely not. Sakusa scoffed, rolling over from his front to his back so that he was able to make view of the pair stood in the middle of the room. Atsumu scanning the walls almost like he was trying to find any hint of alteration to his own room, which he found to be none. What do you fuckers want anyways? I was happier alone. To hang out, I guess. You don't have to leave the building. No need to panic. What? I wasn't even panicking. If you asked me to leave anyways, the answer would have been no. That would be expected. Komori chuckled. Do you have any games or anything? What? You mean you came here to bother me and you also expect me to come up with the entertainment? Well, if you want us bothering you to be less painful, you better think of something. Sakusa sighed. It was going to be a long night. Though somehow, it wasn't as long as he had originally assumed. They eventually found something to do, though time was mostly spent just talking and he didn't mind it much. But that didn't change the fact that both his cousin and Atsumu were annoying pests. It was decent, but he wouldn't want to do it every day. Thursday, 8:47 p.m. Omi. Sakusa looked up from his phone that he had been stuck to like glue the whole time he was eating, where he met two golden eyes smiling at him. He looked questioningly back. What? Wanna go for a walk with me? What? It's dark. No. Sue. I doubt you have been outside the whole time we've been here. A little fresh air will do you good. That doesn't change the fact that it's dark. Will the dark kill you? No. Then you have no excuses. Atsumu Miya will be there to protect you. Sakusa scoffed, placing his phone in his pocket and resting his elbow onto the table. I don't need protecting. Okay, then come with me. What about Komori? What about him? You're gonna ditch him that quickly? I didn't mean it like that. He's been in the bathroom for the past 15 minutes, and I wanna go for a walk. Sakusa scoffed a second time, this time resting his head in the palm of his hand. Why do you wanna go for a walk so badly? Why don't you? I don't know. It just doesn't seem necessary. Atsumu quickly pushed his chair out and stood up, his fingertips pressed firmly against the table as he looked towards Sakusa seriously. Sakusa looking confused back until the blonde broke his firm act, letting out a low laugh. Come on, let's go. I didn't agree to it yet. Just come on. Get up. He spoke, subconsciously pressing a hand to Sakusa's shoulder before quickly removing it, realizing what he was doing. Sakusa probably wouldn't appreciate the touch, which he thought he saw clearly. Sakusa flinching at the sudden contact. Sorry Omi, I just got carried away. Sakusa looked up to Atsumu who was now stood beside him, a dumb apologetic smile on his face that was almost too close to his own. His eyes widened and his mouth opened for a second, before he quickly snapped it away to stare at whatever was on the table, a small tingling feeling forming within his hidden cheeks. It's okay. He reached his hand up to brush the area of his jacket that Atsumu had just touched down, and eventually, he stood up, beginning to walk across the gym. He called out for Atsumu once he realized he wasn't following him. Instead he stood in the exact same position he had left him in. Atsumu. Oh. Common. He said, jogging over towards Kyumi, who was by now almost at the exit of the gym. Had a change of heart? Huh? Tomorrow is the last day of camp, and I assumed we'll all be leaving around noon. So why not? It's not like I can do it tomorrow. Ah, that's right. I almost forgot we're leaving tomorrow. I lost track of time. It passed too quickly. You know, with you being here, you've made it 10 times more painful and also 10 times longer for me. Rude. You don't mean that. I guess you'll never know. Atsumu scoffed. Both of them now outside, walking on the sidewalk, neither knowing where they were going or how long they were going to be out for. They'd probably turn back eventually, but for now they just enjoyed the clear night. Ah, hey, Omi. What? I kinda miss Samu. With all the smack you talk about him, I'd say I'm a little surprised. He's still my brother. Wouldn't you miss Komori if you didn't see him for a week? Komori isn't my brother, too. No, because he's annoying. What? You're just bluffing. I know you would miss him if you didn't see him for a long length of time. Only I would know that. Well, would you miss me then? What? We're going to be leaving camp tomorrow. You won't see me for a while. You. Why would I miss you? You're annoying as fuck and you make my head hurt like hell. He laughed despite his harsh words, signaling to Atsumu that he was joking. Or half joking. Rude much. You're the one who asked. You didn't have to give me such a mean reply. Well, don't ask then. Atsumu huffed, slipping his hands into his own pockets. And to think I thought you might have had a change of heart. How I was so wrong. Well, maybe I did. You're not as annoying as I originally assumed. I'll give you that much. Atsumu looked up to Kyumi's eyes, which were staring at seemingly nothing. Just thin air. Atsumu wished he could see what was behind his mask, the expression he wore, and whether it was a frown or a smile. Or, so Omi has warmed up to me. Shut up. Don't let it get to your head. Atsumu chuckled. Well, I suppose you're not so bad yourself. Not as much of a dick as I assumed. I'm not a dick. Keep telling yourself that, Omi. But I realized you're not as bad as I got to know you. I'm not that bad. Isn't that what I just said? Register what I'm saying, Omi. I've heard you. Jeez. Calm it. Whatever. You're still a dick. I'm glad you see me that way. Atsumu scoffed and crossed his arms, looking into the sky for a moment while thinking. Omi, you better do good at nationals. What? So we can crush you, of course. I can't wait to see you walk off the court disappointed after me and Samu wipe the floor with you. Like hell we'd ever lose to you. And you do know you have more teammates than your twin, right? Of course I know. I was just thinking of Samu when I said it. Right, well, we're not going to lose to you. Mia. Well, neither are we gonna lose to you. Kyumi-san. Sakusa turned to Atsumu with a clear look of disgust, though Atsumu just smirked back. Never call me that again. Then don't call me Mia. Alright. Jeez. I won't. Just don't get too cocky quite yet. You might lose in your first round. That would be a sight to see. Whatever. We're both gonna make it to the finals. And we're gonna wreck you. I'd like to see you try. Friday, 12:32 p.m. Sakusa walked beside Komori towards the exit of the building, his backpack on his back and another in his hand. He forgot to even unpack when they first arrived, so packing all of his stuff back up wasn't exactly hard for him to do. Though that wasn't the same for Komori. Sakusa swore he took over an hour to just empty the closet, which practically had all of his clothes from home in it. Sakusa wasn't even sure how he was able to fit it into his bag properly. Our train leaves in about 20 minutes. Well, the train station isn't too far, so we're not exactly in a rush. Can't we do something else for a little while? I don't wanna be waiting there for ages. Sakuatsu scoffed as Komori stopped walking. Both of them were outside by now. No, we'll end up missing our train. And I'd rather not do that. We've got 20 minutes. The train station is a 5-minute walk from here. You'll only be waiting 15 minutes. That's too long. Shut up and. Hey, Omi. Komori. Atsumu came from inside of the building, his hand raised above his head in a waving position while he half jogged towards them. Atsumu. Hey. I'm glad I caught you before you left. I'm glad you caught us. Well, can I get both of yours numbers? Oh, sure. Komori pulled his phone from his pocket, unlocking it before offering it out to Atsumu, who already had his own phone out, his contacts open as he began to type Komori's number in. Thank you, Omi. Give me your phone number. Absolutely not. What? Come on. You will regret it if you don't. Why would I ever regret it? You will miss me too much, to the point you go insane. And then you will have to go through the humiliation of asking Komori for my number. Sakuatsu scoffed, the blonde looking up at him with revolting pleading eyes which he just death glared him for. I assure you, that will not happen. Yeah, it won't. If you give me your number now. Sakuatsu sighed, reluctantly pulling his phone from his pocket. He pulled down his mask to unlock it before quickly pulling it over his face again. The whole time Atsumu was staring at him way too excitedly, but Sakuatsu chose to try his best to ignore it. Here. He offered his phone to Atsumu, who quickly typed his number in, looking up to Sakuatsu with a stupidly happy smile on his face which almost made Kayumi's heart tug. Great. Well, see you guys whenever, I guess. Yes. See you. Something about Atsumu's smile seemed a little off. Not like it was fake. Just a little hurt, at least to what Sakuatsu could make out, but he was no Atsumu expert. We should go. We'll be late for our train. Ah, you're right. See you around, Atsumu. He gave Atsumu a small wave which Atsumu mirrored back. Komori skipping off in the direction of the train station without looking back, probably expecting Sakuatsu to be right behind him, but he stood in place and Atsumu the same. The blonde looking to the floor almost sadly. Sakuatsu sighed before opening his mouth, a small smile at his lips luckily hidden behind his mask. Yeah, I'll miss you too. Sakuatsu had only just gotten on the train, a window seat of course beside Komori, when he felt a buzz in his pocket. A curious hand reached down to grab his phone as he read the notification on the screen. New message from unknown. He unlocked his phone, going to reply to the message. In Kyo face with medical mask. And unknown's private messages. 12:57 p.m. How's the train ride home? Omi smirking face. Shut up, Finn. 3. Hi besties. I hope you enjoyed the video. The next part of this will be on Akabane's channel tomorrow, so make sure you go check them out. Link in description. Also the next part of Date Me will be out soon. I'm sorry I kept y'all waiting. Let's just say I've been distracted. But still. See you guys in the next video. Bye besties.